You're successful and still restless, no matter what. The restlessness doesn't care what you achieve, it just stays. Remember the morning your new job offer arrived, the one where your title and your compensation finally matched what you had actually been doing all along. You opened it, read it twice, sat with it, felt nothing you expected, and then you closed your laptop and made breakfast. For those 8 months you worked out every morning, showed up, did the work, lost the 20 pounds, standing on that scale waiting for the feeling you told yourself was coming and it just wasn't there. Or the time when you had that calendar fight with your partner and you finally sorted out who handles what day for pickup, who takes the weekends for drop-off, only to find the same feeling of distance between the two of you back 2 weeks later. Every time you did what you always do, filed it away, moved on to the next thing, told yourself the right feeling was just one more achievement away. But here you are, and the feeling, that restlessness, it's still there. I've been there before. I see you, and your success aches. What I'm about to tell you is the most important thing that should have been said before you started building your career, your relationships, your life. Achievement and fulfillment are not the same thing. And nobody told you that before you built your entire life around the assumption that they were. You've been working from information you were never given. And now, years later, you have that information. That gap right there is where your leadership lives. Leadership starts within. It starts with you, always. My name is Lolita Devi Singh. Welcome to Finding Y.E.S, your empowered success. In episode 1 of this chapter, this story I didn't know I was living, we looked at the pattern underneath the way we show up every day, the reaction, the response under pressure that surprises even you. If you haven't spent time there yet, the link is available. Start there first. In this episode, I'm going to share with you a success story from my own life, one that could be your story too. Then I'll show you exactly what the science says is happening beneath that success. And lastly, I'll give you one practice, something concrete that you can use this week that begins to close the gap between what you've achieved and what you're still looking for. Everything we covered today speaks directly to the question you've been carrying. Why am I successful and still feeling unfulfilled? We are feeling this chaotic energy right now and are asking ourselves some variation of, what can I do to survive this? What if I were to say that the starting point is simple but not easy, or everyone would be doing it? We're living in this moment where our finger is pointing outward. Someone else's leadership, someone else's fault, someone else's responsibility. And in the middle of all of that pointing, we have quietly given away our own power of personal leadership. The most important leadership there is, and that leadership lives within. Here's what the science tells us that changes where we can start and where possibilities live in order to access that version of you. The brain is not fixed. Neuroplasticity, the brain's proven ability to rewire itself, tells us that the patterns running you, your life right now, are not permanent. They can be seen, they can be interrupted, they can be changed. Which means this is just who I am. The story so many of us have been living inside of was never the truth. You see, between achievement and fulfillment, there is a gap. And inside that gap, there's choice. Most of us were never taught the gap even exists. And that is exactly the work we're here to do together. I know this because I was a version of you. I spent years in education, policy work, curriculum policy, building something that mattered to me, that impacted the greater good. Then I made a deliberate move into a completely different world, strategy and planning in information technology. Different language, different problems, different everything. I told myself, this is the challenge I've been looking for. This is where I'll finally feel it. I got there. I built something real in that new world. I was recognized there, and much to my disappointment, that feeling of restlessness stayed with me. Same feeling, different office, different title, different world. That's when I understood, not only intellectually, but in the way you understand something when your own life shows it to you, that what I was carrying had nothing to do with what I was doing. It was inside me. And no achievement, not the policy work, not the IT strategy, not any version of the next thing was going to reach inside and change that feeling. That understanding changed my life, and it's why I'm here with you today. So my story is your story. It truly is a universal story, and here's what it looks like. You've come from your own celebration dinner. The restaurant your colleagues chose, the speech your boss gave, the people who love you, clapping for you, genuinely happy for you. And you're sitting in your car in the parking garage, not ready to drive, just sitting. Because somewhere between the table and the car, you lost the feeling. Or maybe it was never fully there. You're not sure anymore. You run it back. The announcement, the calls, the faces, all of it real. All of it earned. And still, this quiet. You've been building towards this for years. Years of early mornings, of saying yes when you meant no, and no when deeply buried beneath it all was that yes you really wanted, of carrying more than your share and making it look easy. Years of telling yourself, when I get there, I'll finally feel it. You got there. Yet you're sitting in a parking garage at 9:47 on a Tuesday night, asking a question you have been carrying in smaller, quieter ways for a very long time. Why doesn't this feel like enough? A question you've never said out loud, not to your partner, not to your sister, not to anyone, only to yourself, sitting in this car, in this quiet, in the dark. And what makes it harder, what you don't say out loud to anyone, is that this feeling isn't new. You felt this after the last promotion too, after the year you finally got healthy, after the conversation with your partner you'd been postponing for 3 years and finally had. Every time, a different room, the same quiet. This is the lived experience of the gap between achievement and fulfillment. And it's more common than anyone is willing to admit out loud. You're not alone in that parking garage. Now let's take a moment to look at what was actually happening in that garage. Not the achievement, not the celebration, what was happening in the brain, because there is a precise reason the feeling didn't arrive when you did. And the science explains it exactly. 2 systems, that is the starting point. The brain has a pursuit system driven by dopamine that is extraordinarily good at one thing, keeping you moving towards the next goal. It lights up when you're chasing something. It's what gets you out of bed at 5 a.m. It's what keeps you pushing through the resistance and what built your career, your life, everything you have achieved. Here's what it was not designed to do. Deliver sustained fulfillment when you arrive. The dopamine system, the pursuit system, is a drive system. It was built to keep you wanting, not to keep you satisfied. The moment you achieve the goal, the system begins recalibrating towards the next one. That's not failure. That's exactly what it was built to do. Fulfillment is registered somewhere else entirely, in a deeper, older part of your brain, the part that reads alignment. Whether what you're doing matches what you're feeling. Whether the life you're building reflects the person living in it. That system cannot be tricked by achievement. It cannot be satisfied by more of the same. It speaks in the quiet, in the parking garage, in the morning before the day begins, and it does not respond to titles or promotions or numbers in an account. Daniel Gilbert at Harvard has spent decades studying what he calls the impact bias, our consistent, measurable tendency to overestimate how good we feel after achieving something we've been working towards. His research is clear. We think the arrival will feel far better and last far longer than it actually does. Not occasionally, consistently, across cultures, across demographics, across every kind of achievement you can name. The data on high performers confirms what you already suspected. Across industries, income levels, and every form of visible success, the gap between what was expected and what is felt at the moment of achievement is not an outlier. It is the pattern. The higher the achievement, the more visible the gap becomes, because you have run out of external things to explain the feeling away. The achievement system got everything it needed. The fulfillment system has been waiting. And that waiting, that restlessness is not a character flaw. It is a signal. And signals, when you understand them, become the most powerful information you have. What this signal is waiting for is not the next achievement. Research tells us that the fulfillment system responds to one thing achievement never provides: your own attention. The willingness to turn inward, to ask honestly what you are actually feeling and why. And that is the beginning of the literacy of the self. So I shared with you earlier that although things feel chaotic right now, the starting point to help answer the question being echoed across the world, the question of what can I do in all this crazy, is simple but not easy. However, don't underestimate its simplicity. This is where it starts, with you. And here it is. After a moment in your life that should have felt like it was more, a promotional raise, a date night, a spa visit, and it didn't, write two things down. Not in your head, on paper, or on your notepad on your phone, wherever you write, something outside of you where you can actually see it. And answer these two questions. What did I expect to feel? And what am I actually feeling? That's it. Now here's the not easy part. And I want to be clear with you about this, because if I told you it was simple and left it there, I would be doing exactly what many have done in the past, giving you what without the why and the how. The reason this works, and the reason it is harder than it sounds, is rooted in the same science we just covered. James Penbaker at the University of Texas has spent decades researching what happens when people write about emotional experience. What his research found is specific and measurable. Writing about what you are actually feeling, not what you're thinking you should be feeling, not what you would say out loud, engages the observing brain in a way that thinking alone cannot reach. Thinking keeps you inside the experience. It loops. You have been looping in that parking garage for longer than you know. Writing creates distance, and distance, even a small amount, is where the seeing begins. When you write, I expect it to feel proud and satisfied and finally enough. And then write, I actually feel quiet and flat and confused. Something happens that no amount of thinking produces. You stop asking what is wrong with me, and you start asking, what is this telling me? That shift from self-judgment to self-inquiry is where your leadership begins. Not in the boardroom, not in the next achievement, right there in the gap between those two sentences. Let me take you back to that parking garage. You're still in the car. It's 9:47 Tuesday night. And instead of filing the feeling away, instead of telling yourself you're tired, that you're feeling it tomorrow, you take out your phone, open your notes, and you write, what did I expect to feel tonight? Relief, pride, the sense that this finally was enough. Those years of early mornings and carrying more than your share had landed somewhere real. Then ask, what am I actually feeling? Quiet, flat, grateful for the people around me, and confused about the silence inside of me. Two sentences, and what changes is not the feeling, not today. What changes is you stop being a stranger to the feeling. You name it, you see it, and what you can see, you can begin to understand. Because that signal, that restlessness, that quiet ache is not working against you. It's working for you. It's trying to show you exactly where your leadership needs to go next. The leadership that you have starts within. It starts with you, always. Let's review where we are at and where we're going. You came into this episode carrying a question you've been carrying for a long time. Why am I successful and still feeling unfulfilled? You now know it's not a personal failure, not ingratitude, and most importantly, it's not evidence that something is broken in you or in the life you've built. It is, however, a signal. The restlessness was never the problem. It held the answer. It has been pointing quietly, persistently, through every achievement at every parking garage and every morning that started the same way, toward the one thing nobody taught you to look at. That gap between the life you have on the outside and the life you're actually living on the inside. That gap is not a verdict on who you are. It is the beginning of the most important work you will ever do. And now you have two things you did not have before today. You understand why the gap exists, not as a feeling to manage, but as a design. Two different systems. One has been running, the other has been waiting to be heard. And you have one practice. Simple, not easy. If you do it, it will begin to close that gap. Two questions written down. What did I expect to feel and what am I actually feeling? The seeing starts there. As we move forward into chapter 2, learning the story of me, we go back in time, further than a few years ago, much, much further, before the career, before the choices, before any of this began, to where the story actually started, before you had words for it, before you had awareness of it at all. Because some of what you are carrying today, some of that gap did not begin with you. And understanding where it began and the progression through your lived experience is the start of understanding why it's still here. Stay with me. Because if something shifted in you today, you are in the right place. This week, the writing practice. Just once, after one moment that doesn't feel the way it should, take out your phone or a piece of paper and write 2 sentences. What did I expect to feel and what am I actually feeling? That is enough to begin. Don't analyze it. Don't fix it. Just let it be seen. Because what you name, you can no longer ignore. And what you can no longer ignore, you can finally begin to change. Share, comment, and keep walking with me through this story, chapter by chapter. We're just getting started. My name is Lolita Devi Singh. Until next time, say yes to leading better, living better, and loving better.